Computer Science 190, lecture number 4, first Java program. Okay, today is the August 27th, 2020. Let's go. Class updates, right? Homework number 2 will be available soon during Monday. Please definitely install Eclipse by Friday or use online compiler. If you have an issue, attend tutoring, schedule an appointment using the link which is in the syllabus. First lab is tomorrow. Okay. In general, we'll be having quizzes on Thursdays and homeworks on Mondays. Always email me if you have any questions. Today we'll be writing your first, or well, probably not first, but almost first Java program. I want you to read chapter 1 of your textbook. First off, what I want you to do, I want you to watch this video. So go to YouTube and watch it without, so pause this video.
Hello, I'm Jason at CodeLearner.com.
Pause my video. Okay, and then try to find this video or just look it up in the PDF slides, okay, which are published on Blackboard. So please watch this video and then we'll get back to my lecture. Okay, now I'm assuming you watched that. Okay, so let's talk about your first Java program. The first Java program is usually called Hello World. Why that way? Kernighan Ritchie created a huge book. That book was called the C programming language, and basically the first program anybody, like ever since anyone ever writes in any kind of programming language is called Hello World. It's kind of the simplest program, kind of for the newbies, the simplest thing you can ever write. And usually it is a program which just displays the line Hello World. It's not that much useful because what's the point of just saying Hello World, right? It's not that, it doesn't bring any value to anybody, but that's how everybody starts. Okay, I'm just displaying Hello World in Java, Python, C, C++, whatever programming language you learn. Yeah, so it just prints out Hello World to the console. Let's write it and format it well. Okay, so what we can do again, let's say that's what I have here. I'm gonna delete this project and let me again show you how to create a new one. Click OK. So I'm gonna go to File, New Java Project. Okay, I'm gonna call it 4, project name, then Finish. Then I'm not going to create a module name. Then then right click on Source, New Class, and also I'm gonna do the save 4. Okay, and mark the checkbox, Finish. Okay. So after that, I'm going to have this 4.java file with this code, and now I'm going to write some code here. Okay, so here's how it works. You basically need to say system.out println. Again, you don't really have to think about like what that means yet. And then inside the parentheses, I'm going to say hello world and exclamation mark. And then I'm gonna hit the play button. And okay, it asks me if I want to save this file for the Java because I was editing that text file. I want to save it, I'm clicking OK, and then now it displays me Hello World. Perfect. Okay, so as simple as that. That's super simple to do, of course. Hello World. Okay, now check this out. So this is the text for proper formatting. I'm gonna copy it here, and okay. So what do we see here? Can I, by the way? Okay, nice. Yeah. Increase the font, so I think it'll be easier for you guys to see it. Okay, perfect. So what do we see at the very top? At the very top, we see this huge thing. That's basically called bold comment. Okay, so that's the text which can be formatted in any kind of way. You don't have to follow strict Java rules, right? And Java is basically and it's created by developers for some other developers. Okay, so for example, if I write some code and let's say it's 1,000 lines, and somebody is going to maintain that code of the website. Let's say I'm writing some kind of website, I don't know, google.com, right? And somebody else, I don't know, 10 years later or 1 month later is going to open up my code and he's going to try to understand kind of some kind of information about this code. So this thing at the top is usually dedicated, that section is dedicated to kind of having a brief general description of the code which is below. Okay, so basically the first thing is going to have like author Steve Rubin, written, the date, last updated, right, so when it was updated last, Well, that probably doesn't make sense, right? So it should be probably 2018. This program shows the info about myself. Okay, so some kind of general description. Okay. Then what do we do here? Basically the same thing, right? You see the public class 4, public static void main, right? Again, as I said before, all the stuff you write goes between this brace and this brace, okay? System.out.println hello world. That's basically what we just did, right? Next, I can say system.out.println, comma, my name is Steve, okay? Perfect. Okay, now check this out. So you see this like double slash, right, and then some text, and you see kind of this text is naturally formatted in a way of general Java formatting, right? So this text just makes much more sense when you just reading that. Why is that? So that text is called a comment. Comment basically, so that is like a small comment, and that's a huge comment. What Eclipse is doing, it colors those comments in some different color. For example, in this case, in gray, such that you would be able to visually quickly distinguish what's actual code and what's a comment. So comment is a piece of text without any formatting. You don't have to again follow any strict rules of Java, and it's basically created again for somebody else, either for a user or for a programmer who'll be maintaining my code later, or for myself, because it's possible that I write some kind of code, 1000 lines, then I forget about that, 6 months later I come back to it and I have to understand what I was trying to do. So that's why comments are extremely helpful. Okay, so that is a comment. Yeah, by the way, for Java, the comments mean nothing, absolutely nothing. When Java is compiling the code, it immediately eliminates all the comments, right? And whatever's left, it's trying to work with that. Okay, so the comment, what do they do? They usually start with double slash, okay, double forward slash, and then kind of you can put a space here. You may not do that, completely up to you. However, what's very important to know is that it has to start with double slash. If you have one slash only, like this, so you see now it kind of underlines it all, right? And it's like this class, it colors them differently. So now Java is going to think that this text is not a comment, it's a part of the code, okay? And that's of course not, and that's something which we need to keep in mind. That's why I like put a double second slash back in, okay? So now it thinks it's going to be a comment. Okay, so let me run this. Okay, hello world, my name is Steve Rubin. Perfect. Now let me kind of make that mistake. Let's say I forgot for some reason that comment starts with double slash. I just do this, click run. What do I see? I'm going to see an error. Okay, could not find loan main class Java for, okay, so again, some description which doesn't make any sense, but the problem isn't here, right? And you just need to put a second slash. Okay, so what does comment do? Comment blocks out piece of text, right, from the place where you have those double slashes up until the end of the line. Okay, which means let's say like over here you see I have some comment, like this class is the only class written in this program. Okay, so that's basically again some kind of information which may be helpful to somebody. But if let's say I have public class 4 written over here, you see it still colors this in gray, which means Java still thinks that it's going to be a part of the comment. Okay, it's not going to consider this public class 4 as a real code. It's going to think that it is a part of the comment. That's why it's going to be deleted. That's why you need to be very careful. And again, this coloring is really helpful. If, for example, you go back over here, you see it says public class 4 again in gray, right? And now I have a lot of crosses, a lot of things like underlined with red. That means something is wrong. So I need to come back over here. Public class 4. Okay, so again, this is a huge comment, that's a comment, that's a comment, that's also a comment. Okay, yeah. System.out.print hello world, system.out.println my name is Steve. Okay, now you can see that there is a tiny difference between these two, print and println. What's the difference? Print prints out something to the console, println prints that out and goes to the new line. Okay, so for example, check this out. Hello world, my name is Steve, right? And now what if I change this to println and now try to run it? Now it's going to the hello world, go to the new line, and then puts a comma, right? Comma over here. My name is Steve. Whew, okay, hope it makes sense. Next. Yeah, so that is so-called hello world program. Okay, that was your first homework. Let's create a variable called my age. Some 28, right? Okay, this line, what does it do? It creates a variable, like kind of similar to math, right? So like x, y, z, of type integer, right? So int stands for integer, okay? That basically says that, hey, I'm creating a variable called my age. That variable is going to hold an integer, and what is the value of that variable is 28, right? So here we can have, I don't know, 10, 15, 8, right? So for example, again, 28, I'm gonna run it. If it doesn't throw any error, that means it works. Okay, perfect, no errors, it works. You can kind of see here that it's actually created in a yellow line. Let's see what it means. What did it say? No, hold on. It says the value of the local variable age is not used. Okay, so that's when it underlines something in yellow. So when it does it in red, that means there is an error, at least in Java's opinion. When it underlines that in yellow, it means a slightly different thing. When it underlines it in yellow, that means there is a warning. Okay, warning is not an error. Technically, with the warning, you can still work. Okay, or at least Java thinks it can work. And in this particular case, what it says is that this variable is not used, meaning that I created a variable, okay, which is called my age, type integer, value of 28, but I do not do anything with that variable. Kind of like, why would you create a variable and you're not doing anything with it? So that sounds like stupid, and Java's kind of saying like, hey, you created a variable, maybe you're gonna do something with this. And let's say I want to print that variable out. Okay, again, system.out.println, and then over here I'm going to say my age. Okay, and now you see this thing disappeared. It's not underlining anything anywhere, because now I kind of created a variable and then I used it later for my purpose. I printed out my age, and now if I click run, okay, hello, my name is Steve, 28. Okay, and there is no underlining, no marks. Kind of Java is now happy with this. But again, even if that was not there, right, it would still underline it. It's still a warning. It's not an error. It will still work. It just wouldn't do anything, right? You created the variable, but you didn't use it. Okay. What else? Yeah. So first off, check out the difference between the following two lines. This one and this one. Here I'm going to print out my age, and here I'm going to print out also my age. Okay, so what do you think will be the difference? Well, let me delete these two first. Okay, in the first line we see my age, so that's the result of this printing it out, and here I have my age, so I have 28 and my age, right? So why did it print out the value of my age first, which is 28, and just my age second? Okay, so the whole difference between these two lines are those quotation marks, okay? And here's the rule. If, let's say, you create a variable called my age and you assign 28 to it, and then if you put that variable in the quote marks, Java is going to think that you mean a string. It's going to create a string of anything you put between the quote marks. Is going to treat that literally like symbols and is going to print out whatever between the quote marks. In this case, it's my age. If you don't have those quote marks, if you just put a variable there, then Java is going to think, okay, so my age, what is it? That's a variable, okay? The variable was created over here, okay? And it's going to print out the value, kind of what's inside of that variable, which is 28, okay? Now the way to prove that is this. So what if I add like symbol 1 here and symbol 1 over here, okay? So, and we can see that this line is becoming underlined in red. Why? Because now Java is saying, okay, my age 1. I don't really know what that is, because here I have my age, and this my age 1 does not seem to be the same thing as this my age. Those are two different things. And Java is complaining, like, I have no idea what my age 1 is. I know what my age is, but not my age 1. So if I try to run it, it's going to throw an error. You see? Exception, thread warning, unresolved compilation problem. My age 1 cannot be resolved to a variable. Basically saying, I have no idea what my age 1 is. Okay? But over here, there will be no problem, because again, it just prints out literally whatever goes between the quote marks. So if I print that out, my age 1. Okay, that's the difference. What else? Okay, let's say I want to concatenate, so I want to put together numbers and symbols. Okay, so here's what I should do. I should say my age is, okay, and then my age. Okay, so do you think it's gonna work? Probably not, because you see, like, there is a red underline, right? There is a red cross. So if I navigate and click on that cross, it's going to tell me approximately what's wrong. Again, Java doesn't really help with that. So tell me what's wrong. Syntax error on token my age, delete this token. Okay, so what does it mean? Who knows? I don't know. But here's the reason why it shows that. In order to kind of combine two strings, or a string and a number, right, I need to have a plus in between. In that case, it's going to kind of put those two things together, and it's going to print out what I would expect it to. So my age, and then my age is 28, right? So my age is 28. Notice this tiny thing. Like, you see, I have a space here. What if I delete this space? And that's most likely what you guys will be doing as well, like without the space. And now it prints out like my age is 28 without the space there, which doesn't look that good, right? It doesn't look properly formatted, it doesn't look kind of beautiful well. And that's why, again, knowing that, I just add an extra space here to make sure that the final output looks good. Because again, what we're doing here is what the user, the final user, will be seeing. So like, if let's say there is a designer or developer at Microsoft and he's creating a new version of Windows, then like people like all of us will be using Windows later, right? So they need to make sure that it looks like well, and especially if you're competing with Apple or Google. Yeah, so my age is 28. Okay. If let's say I want to have like my age is 28 and have a period dot, right? So what should I do? Exactly the same thing. So I have a plus and then dot between the quotes, right? So now I print that out. My age is 28 dot. Perfect. Moving on. Yeah. By the way, one of the problems which you guys may run into. Check this out. So what if I cut that and paste it later? Okay, so already you can see that it's underlining something, right? And technically nothing changed. You still have my age, which is 28, and you're trying to print out my age. So what would cause the problem? So if I now try to print it out, error. Okay, so here's the deal. Unfortunately, in Java, unlike other modern contemporary novel programming languages, you cannot use a variable before you create it. So in this particular case, I use a variable. I'm trying to use a variable first, right? I'm trying to print it out, and then I create it. Because Java is going to process the code, again, between this brace and this brace, from top to bottom, line by line. This line, this line, this line, this line, although it's empty again, and then this line, and then that line. So when Java comes over here, it's trying to print out my age, but my age doesn't exist, so it's going to throw an error. And it's kind of not smart enough to look one line further. Some languages are, not Java. Okay? Hope it makes sense, but now it works. Okay. Again, luckily Eclipse. So the online compiler doesn't really help you with that, but Eclipse at least underlines a little bit something. Yeah, okay, so check this out. What if I, for example, what if I'm not exactly 28, but let's say 28.5, like for example 28 and a half. I can say 28 and a half and already see an error, okay? What does it mean? Type mismatch, cannot convert double to int. Okay, so here's the problem. Int stands for an integer, right? I declared the variable my age to be a type of integer, and unfortunately I cannot create a floating, like a number with a floating point with a decimal, right, in it, and assign that to an integer. That's not possible, and that's why if I run it right now, I think it will throw me an error, right? Yeah, so it can't do that, unfortunately. And then the question is, like, how would I create anything with a decimal point? How can I say, like, for example, pi 3.14, right? And for those purposes, there are other data types, not int, but for example, float. Float my age 1. Okay, so float my age 1 would accept a number with the decimal in it. So for example, 28.5. Okay. No? Why not? Okay. Well, float is not the best thing. Double. Okay. So double works. Okay. So now it doesn't have any red lines, but it has a yellow line again because it is I did not use it yet. I did not use this variable, which means kind of I created the variable, but I didn't use it. So that's why Java is saying, hey, like it's just a warning, but I can still run it and see if it works. Yeah, it does work. Now let me change this to my age 1. Let's see if it changes. Perfect. It does change it to 28.5, right? So what happens is that kind of Java is pulling the value of this variable from over here, right? So it kind of inserts 28.5 into this space between my age is and the dot. Okay. Let's create a variable double called my height. Okay, so I'm 6.3, 6.2. So that should be, I guess 6.4 approximately feet, right? And then I'm going to say system that out that println. Okay, and then I'm going to type I am. Well, like let's say my height is, and then plus my height plus ft, something like this. And then I'm gonna click run. Yeah, so my height is 4.6 feet. Okay, and then probably also add a dot there. Okay, yeah, hope it makes sense. Let's move on. Let's talk about this. There are a few different data types we'll be using in Java. Okay, so let's talk about them. Okay, so we already know what int is, right? And that's going to be an integer. Well, yeah, integer, right? And then we're going to have double. Okay, so that's going to be, again, with a decimal point. Similar to that, we're going to use float, also with a decimal point. We're going to use byte. That's basically also an integer, but between basically between -128 to +127. Okay, then we're going to have short, also an integer but smaller. Char, which stands for character, right? But like people pronounce it as char. That's basically like one symbol, not a string, but one symbol. For example, A, letter A, capital A, lowercase a, B, something like this. Then string, right, which is basically a bunch of symbols together. And boolean. Boolean can be either true or false. For example, let's pick any of them. We'll go into detail later about how each one of them works, but let's pick any of them. Let's say boolean, by the way. Boolean. Okay, so boolean, again, the formula of how to create a variable of that type is exactly the same. First off, we create the type, specify the type, let's say boolean. Then the name of the variable, it can be anything, but you need to start with the letter, not with the number, not with the digit. Let's say is professor. Professor, so like am I a professor, right? And the value of that would be true. Okay. Boolean is professor, true. So kind of asking the question, am I a professor? Like the answer would be true, right? And then I can kind of also do the same thing. I can print it out. Say for example, am I a professor? Right, and then print out the value of this variable, which is professor. I'm going to copy it here, paste it over here. Am I a professor? Plus is professor. So let's try to print it out. Okay, am I a professor? True. Perfect. Okay, what else? Yeah, so for as practice, what I want you to do, I want you to do the following. I want you to complete these 3 exercises. Okay, so please do that before Monday. I'm not going to check that, right? So it's completely on you. I just highly recommend doing this, and maybe one of them will be included in the lab tomorrow. Just display the pattern, right? So I want you just to display Java like this. Okay, so how do you do that? So that's the first line over here, right? So basically add a bunch of spaces, then J, bunch of spaces, A, bunch of spaces, V, bunch of spaces, V, bunch of spaces, A. And do the same thing for the second line, third line, and then the fourth line. Print a table. Write a program that displays the following table: A squared, A cube, right? 1, 1, 1. 2, and then 2 squared is 4, 2 cubed is 8, then 3, 9, 27, 4, 16, 64. So 4 squared is 16, 4 cubed is 64. And also do this additional exercise. Write a program that displays the result, use float or doubles of the following fraction, right? So it's 9.5 times 4.5 minus 2.5 times 3, and that whole thing divided by 45.5 minus 3.5. Okay, I'll be explaining that later. Again, highly recommend doing these exercises because they will give you additional practice. Okay, other than that, that's it. Okay, please prepare for the lab tomorrow. The homework will be due on Monday. I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.